All right, good morning, friends. Welcome to WWP Reacts. I'm Bill, United States military retired officer as an engineer officer. So I want to look at what's been going on in Ukraine and Russia on a daily basis or every other day basis. But I want to look at it from like kind of a military engineering perspective, if you will. And I'm going to move my picture out of the way so that I can look at what's happened in the last 24, 36 hours. This is a key event right here. Russia ministry a day ago says that they have full occupation of Samika village of the Kharkiv region. And why is that critical? Why is that critical to everything that's going on? Well, let's look at where Kharkiv is, right here. And this is that village. Now, as an engineer officer, we're looking at mobility, counter-mobility, survivability. So, Russia says they've taken this, right? So they have this full control. This whole area where my cursor is, that is all Ukrainian counter-defense, counter-offense, right? And so if I was Russia, if I was Ukraine, I would be bolstering, taking out this, or making sure this is prepared, because this is a natural barrier, right? This river, the what's the name of the river? I can't see it, but this river is a natural barrier to Russia getting Kharkiv, because that is their goal, is to get Kharkiv up here in the northern part of the country. They want to get Kharkiv. So this supply route, or this route, is, where are they going to cross? Where is Russia going to cross? They're using tanks and stuff now, probably in that area. So the avenues of approach is this C210, 810, and T2104. But they got to cross, and if you notice, there's not a lot of places to cross this river, so that's going to be huge for a big hurdle for Russia. And so, as an engineer officer, I'd be making battle plans to, if needed, be able to blow up this bridge. Also, we want to look at the logistics. Now, we have some Russian partisans or Ukrainian partisans in Russia fighting, but this road to Lyman, right? If they've sustained this, they got to sustain this road. So I'm sure indirect artillery fire and others, drones and stuff, are looking at this road here to stop supplies getting in here to Russia. Okay, so that was one thing that's to the Russian occupied area here. So that's one thing that happened in the last day or two. Zelensky, of course, says that it's too early to draw conclusions from Abu Dhabi. And in some of my other reading, Institute of Study of War, they did meet, or they're meeting right now, today, 23rd and 24th. But I think Kremlin is going to try to push Trump to abandon the negotiation process with Ukraine and Europe that he's been leading to concede to demands Russia made it in the August 2025 U.S.-Russia summit. So there's going to be pressure from Kremlin for Trump to abandon these negotiations. Kremlin is also engaged in an informational campaign aimed at Ukraine's partners that attempts to present control over the Donbass as the main issue left. But inside Russia, inside the Kremlin, our intelligence shows us that their talks are much more than just that area, the Donbass. They have much bigger aims than just eastern Ukraine. Of course, one of the key points for Ukraine, if there is peace, is long-term support for Ukraine's economy reconstruction, and robust security guarantees that deter future Russian aggression. That probably won't happen. There's stuff going on in the Chechen Republic. There's an election going on, or transfer of power. They want to have a succession of power for Chechen Republic head Razman Kadyrov. He's leaving, and they want to avoid a tumultuous transfer of power like happens in Chechnya a lot, so that the Chechen resources that Russia is using that Russia has, the Chechen soldiers that fight for Russia, aren't diverted back to Chechnya. So those are a couple key areas. Lots of air defense activity in Russia, in Belgrade. So if you look on the map, that's pretty far inside Russia. This is where we were just talking about, and now, in the last day, a lot of air. So Ukraine is striking in these areas, and this is a video of the actual air defense system. There is, of course, in the Kharkiv region, there's always drones right up in here, and 3 people were killed. An explosion in Sumy. It goes on and on, right? So let's move down and let's look at these clashes in the Sloviansk area. So these are all active engagements in the last 24, 48 hours. Sloviansk direction, so as we go further south, right, we're down here now, we were up here before, now we're down here in what's called the fortress belt, that Ukraine will not surrender. They have to have the strong fortress belt. But there's been some fighting in these areas, as you can see by these rifles with the yellow line around it. And again, and I'm going to go to another slide here in a minute, and I'm going to talk about waterways and stuff like that. And you just have to remember where these are, where this fighting is going on, because I'm going to look at an ArcGIS map of Ukraine, and we're going to talk about waterways and railroads and the significance of those terrain features to slow the advance. Of course, this is their number 2 and number 3 subordinate main effort to the main effort, which is eastern Ukraine, right? That's the main effort. This is number 2 and number 3. This area that we were at before, wrong way, Bill, wrong way. This is the main effort, or subordinate main effort number 1. Subordinate main effort number 2 and 3 is in this area, and number 4 is down here. Okay, so that's the Russian game plan. Why? Because they want to move out of the Donbass, if you will, and move into other oblasts of Russia. So Kupiansk, right here, there was fighting there, and Kupiansk, there was fighting in the direction of Kupiansk, so intense fighting there. And when we put on the map of the resistance, you'll see that this is a big resistance. Again, this is that fortress belt. That's the beginning of it. Comes all the way down to Izium and all the way down to Kramatorsk. Okay, so, and in the Kramatorsk area right here, so more fighting. So that's all. See a lot of fighting in this area. Why? Because Russia wants to get in here, we want to push them back, or Ukraine wants to push them back. And of course, lots of drone activity, Shardhead drone activity, as typical in this area, and indirect artillery all along and near Zaporizhia. So that is really not a ton of activity. I mean, Russian forces said in the Institute of Study of War that they've made advances in the Soviets and Novoplavika area, but I don't see that relayed on this map. And this map, this Ukraine map, live U map, is updated. They have a big crew that in Ukraine. This is actually updated in Ukraine. So they're taking battlefield estimates or battlefield analysis directly from there. So let's look at our 3D ArcGIS map. And this map's cool because I can tilt it. I can do all kinds of things with it. And so you can see Belgorod there. You can see Kharkiv here. I got the names of the towns in here because I wanted to come out and show you that river again of where that battle was up north. So this is the village. As you see, the orange is what Russia says they have. What is assessed that Russia owns is the red. So this is the town right here where they were saying that Russia said they've taken that over. So you can see that they're, so here's that waterway again. Let me see if I can find the name of that waterway in English, which I can't, so we'll just move on. So the village is here, and they got to cross the river somewhere. I don't see many good areas for them to do that. And if it's, of course, their infantry is basically mounted and then assaults. So I am sure right on this side of the river, there's all kinds of obstacles for them. So those are our waterways. What other significant waterways are there that we need to be worried about, or that Russia needs to be worried about, or which Ukraine wants to really hone in on in this area? Okay, especially down in the main efforts area. If you notice, there's water all along these areas that is stopping Russia from coming across and being able to move. So a lot of good natural barriers here for counter mobility for the Ukrainians to stop Russia moving through. And they can, of course, fortify that to make it even harder for counter mobility. So what does all that mean? It just means that there's a lot of good natural terrain barriers for Ukraine. So let's back up here. Let's get away from the waterways. Get rid of that. Boom. Okay, so that's gone. Let's look at major railroads, Ukrainian railroads. Okay. We've got to give it a second to load up because this is an ArcGIS, so it's overlays. Okay, so here they're coming in, they're populating. So these are some major railroads. And I want to get rid of the villages because it makes it too hard to see with all the villages in there. We just have the major cities. So these are major railroads for resupply and everything like that. Kupiansk. And the railroads run right parallel to where the Russians are advancing, kind of along the rivers, Izium. So those are your major railroads. That's very important for logistics if you're planning. the battles. And I'm just going to do it as we go to wind down here. I'm just going to do it kind of a deep dive as to things that have happened. So just to orient you on the map, here's Kharkiv. Underneath me is Kyiv. Down here we have Kramatorsk, Kupiansk, Pokrovsk. That's a key fighting area lately, if you remember from the other day when we were chatting. So let's do this. Let's get rid of the railroads and get rid of the railroads. Okay, and then this has a key feature where I can click on assessed Russian gains in the past 24 hours. And if I click on this, I don't see anything. Yesterday, there was an area right here where the past 24 hours Russians had made some gains, and that was all that was showing. So there's not a lot of gains being made by the Russians in this. All right, so that's key. Assessed Russian areas of infiltration. So I'm going to click it. It's going to go away. I got rid of the railroads. Okay, that's better. Now we can see a little better. So as we scroll in here, we can see that sorry, it's just being a little slow. So this is the area. I just clicked on the area. This is what Russia occupied before February of 2022. And they've made inroads, all the way down here. Their big thing, right, was if I come down further, if I scroll out a little bit, their big thing, right, when they were fighting in Kherson was to make this land bridge over to this little sliver in Moldova. It's not shown on here, but there are Russians in here. There's a red slice in here. And they wanted to make this cutover, but they couldn't, so Ukraine can basically strangle out Russian forces here. You didn't want them to be kind of active. Okay, so let me scroll back in a little bit, and let's look at assessed Russian infiltration areas in Ukraine. And it will pop up here in a second. So these yellow areas are assessed Russian infiltration areas, assessed Russian gains. We already did that. Ukraine has no territorial gains last 24 hours. I checked on that. Claimed Ukrainian counter-offenses are all along the major areas, like this is near Pokrovsk, this is down by Kherson, and of course, really supporting the Russia's main effort, number one, if you will, and that is getting to Izium, getting to Kharkiv, so blocking all this. This is the main effort, and then they have the belt, if you will, from up here all the way down, big fortifications. And if I was an engineer planning engineering operations or survivability operations we'd be even hardening areas here to counter-offend the Russians. So that's what's happening today in Russia and Ukraine. Not a lot. It continues grinding on. Thousands and thousands getting killed. And they're meeting in Abu Dhabi. Beautiful place, by the way, if you have never been. In Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and they are meeting to have peace talks. We'll see what happens. All right, I thank you all for watching, and like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Send me some feedback, comments. I'd love it, and talk to you soon. WWP Reacts signing out.